music go.
Man's Guide to Rocket Jumping. Rocket jumping is something everyone in TF2 would like to do when playing the class called Soldier. He's a class that most people rotate to when first starting the game and will always have the most amount of set mains on it, similar to Spy and Scout. Rocket jumping is something you want to learn as Soldier because it helps you get higher mobility to get in and out of situations. It helps you be able to rocket jump airstrike with the literal gun that's called airstrike. Rocket jump in the air, you have higher shooting power, which means it shoots faster, but it won't do as much damage as the stock rocket launcher. But I would say good places to practice for rocket jumping are Jump Academy and High Tower. And if you have a certain setting to connect it to your computer for TF2, you could just type in it CTF underscore any map really, CTF underscore specifically High Tower, CTF underscore upward, CTF underscore Badwater, stuff like that to learn how to do rollouts and stuff similar to that. Soldier will always have most likely the most set of mains on it. Like I said earlier, people like playing them, people like learning how to get higher mobility, and I cannot disagree with that. It's fun. You get to market guard people when playing Trolldier. You can stomp on people's heads with the man treads, use the gunboats to lessen the amount of blast damage it takes to rocket jump in the first place. In this video, we are going to go through the 3 phases of every rocket jumping and how to rocket jump and how to Trolldier. Now, to rocket jump, as you see in the video, all you have to do is hold not hold WASD. You hit space, control, and click at the same time, then you rocket jump. To double rocket jump, like I just did in the video, you have to rocket jump to the side, click there, keep crouched, keep your hand on the control button, and then you should be good. It's pretty simple. And to be honest, I would say that rocket jumping in general, it's just rocket jumping straight up is pretty easy. Rocket jumping off of things is kind of easy, but overall I would say the hardest thing to do as a rocket jumper is strafing. Strafing is something you're gonna have to learn in TF2 because it's gonna be able to help you get out and in situations and help you. Yeah, it's more used as escapes mostly. Get around buildings, get out, move from obstacle to obstacle, or get past the obstacles, I should say. And it's pretty simple, to be honest. Rocket jumping in general is just pretty easy. But for the start, like I said, just walk forward with W, press Control and space, click at your feet, and you should be good to rocket jump, but you have to let go of W. I specifically use W to jump because it's a part of my muscle memory. I cannot just take my hand off my W, so I have to try to learn about that, so I'm still learning. But other than that, the most important thing when Trolldiering is that you have to not, or just rocket jumping in general, not to hold W while jumping because it'll decrease your speed and it'll make it harder for you to strafe. In general though, I would say that when trying to rocket jump, or for the start, I would say you want to know where you're going, because if you're not and you mess up, first of all, when you land, it'll be very awkward if you miss your target, and it'll be pretty bad. To be honest, if you don't get a good jump, you're not going to be able to get a good market garden or just not gain a lot of ground. When rocket jumping, you always want to have your... When rocket jumping for practicing, always use the rocket jumper, since it's literally made for that. The weapon was, or the utility was used in game because of the fact that, or made because they wanted to help people learn how to rocket jump. Since most people, when you didn't have that, most people were just messing around, blowing themselves up more than half the time. When rocket jumping, you're going to have to learn something else when rocket jumping. But I'm going to save that for the last part of the video, and because that is one of the most advanced skills to use. Similar to strafing. Strafing is also an advanced thing. When strafing, you want to hold your strafing keys, or moving back and forth keys, or side to side, I should say, A and D, and you want to turn your mouse slowly. So then, since Valve's motion thing in Team Fortress and in most of its games, you have to move the mouse slowly because there's only a certain amount of speed you can gain. If you couldn't do that, then let's be honest, more than half the time people would just be jumping around, practically flying. When you're in midair, you're always going to have to learn one of the most important things, which is staying crouched while in the air. I have not mastered this either. I usually stay on it, but sometimes I don't, which usually messes me up. You always want to stay crouched so you could do cool things that you see in other videos, which is like going up ramps, because stairs in most of TF2 is just ramps with a different texture. That's the reason people can go up with that. Most of the time you're always gonna have to crouch when shooting the Trolldier, because in Source Engine it brings your body up instead of bringing your body down like a normal crouch when you're in the air. So when in the air, you're gonna always have to stay crouched. That way that you could try to hit the garden. It'll be easier, at least it'll leave you more time to hit the garden, since it's slower when trying to hit the ground, and you're using when you're standing up, it gives you less time, basically. So what you want to do for that is that when you want to aim to land next to the spot of where you think the person is going, so try to predict the landing where they're going to be at, and you want to follow that spot. That's why when people back up or people keep moving forward and you're about to go for a garden, it's so easy to get the garden. More than half the time it's because they're unaware. Like, let's think about this. They're also a gamer, so if they want to, they will destroy you. But well, if they can, at least. But yeah. So you want to always aim to land next to the spot where you think they're gonna be, and then also when in midair, you also want to like I said earlier, you always want to well, I'm gonna just call it drifting or sliding for now. And you're always gonna want to do that to keep rotating around, so that way you can move faster. And let's be honest, that the speed will change if you're using man treads like I do. Like when Trolldiering, you should most of the time use either man treads or the base jumper, but the shotgun. But if you have a shotgun on you, it kind of makes you seem like a Trolldier who can't hit his shots and has a reliable secondary on him. And so after that, you always want to like move around in midair. That way you can get faster speed. You go faster, since depending on the first part, wherever you jump from, if it's close to you or far away, it'll make you move faster depending on how you jump. And to utilize that, we use drifting and sliding. That's what I'm gonna call it for now. In the next part, I'm gonna explain what I mean. And that way, it'll be easier for people to hit gardens and just try to be a better Trolldier. But before that, I should say this now. I am not going to be posting very flashy content that you see in like Soundsmith and Lazy Purple videos where they hit like sliding ramp jumps off of a freaking tower, then they go behind the tower, then they go all the way back around, which is pretty cool to be honest. But if you try to replicate that type of thing and you haven't learned the basics, that won't work. So there's no point in trying to do that if you don't like have a good understanding of how to rocket jump. That should be it. Yes, we did it. Now we are at market gardening. Market gardening itself and hitting the shovel is pretty much the easiest part out of these three. Since all you're doing is, since you have your placement down, all you have to do is time your shovel, which is pretty simple, as you would think. But it's a lot harder than you might think, because the problem is that I didn't explain this earlier. When you're jumping and you want to aim next to someone, the timing of your shovel has to be delayed, since is always delayed, I should say, since the first swing is always similar to the stock shovel, but then it won't. The second swing will not time with the stock shovel since it goes slower. It won't be able to really do anything much. It won't like you're not going to be able to use this as a melee weapon really unless you get the crit. So you have to hit your market gardens unless you're gonna go for a very awkward landing. And then you hear, yeah, that's about it. And then also what you're gonna have to do is that you should always just try to like when you're hitting your garden, you wanna like start you wanna press the mouse key at like mouse one at strictly like a second before you're about to land, because that way when you do that, since it'll time the garden pretty well, since you're always going to see how I and others just we always start going with the shovel first, and then we put it like we start moving the shovel first before we even land or even hurt see like before we even get close to the person. That way when we do, it'll be pretty easy to get the market garden. The one thing I suggest you do never rocket jump into are three things, which are heavies, sentries, scouts, which is just, we're going to call that HSS. Heavies, scouts, and sentries. The problem about this is that when you have a sentry, it'll shoot you out the air, and then when you fall, you're practically stuck there, so you're dead. You're also dead after the fact, where if you jump into a scout, he has mobility over you. And this goes for anything, not even when you're Trolldiering. This goes for when you're just rocket jumping. It'll be harder for you to escape since he has the higher mobility, and some of your rockets, unless you have really good aim, are not going to either be able to hit. So what you always want to do when you're versing a scout is try to aim at their feet, so then that way when you shoot at them, it will send their body straight up flying and stilled. Scouts, I guess this wouldn't really work too well because of the fact that scouts, if they... Now, for the last part of this video, I should explain things that'll help you Trolldier and help you just stay alive longer as a soldier. I should explain this like I said earlier. You should also never jump into the two S's and one H, or HSS. Heavies, scouts, and sentries. Those are the three things you want to never really rocket jump into. Heavies can drill you out the air, while scouts have higher mobility over you, so since you don't have a lot of rockets stored up already because of the rocket jump, you're not going to be able to get away. And with sentries, they will laser you to the ground since they have automatic fire as long as they're not using a Wrangler. if the person is bad with a wrangler specifically. And also, I should say that it'll be always easier to when rocket jumping to do bee hopping. Bee hopping is an advanced technique that I do every now and then, since you'll rarely see anyone doing it because of the fact that it won't really be necessary more than half of the time. Then bee hopping is something advanced where you keep hopping after you hit the ground, and after you hit the ground, so then when you keep hopping in a certain way, it'll count it as you're still in the air. That's how the source engine works, sadly. And when you're still in the air, you still will be able to hit the garden as long as you keep jumping. It'll be hard, but it'll be good. And also, I forgot what it was called, but another good thing is to let you know how this goes for most experienced players or new players who don't know what they did. When new players go into a match, and let's say they're trying to rocket jump, but they slide off the edge of something. I forgot what that was called, but it's actually something very rare to see that some rocket jumpers utilize, is that when you're going off the edges, it makes you faster and it won't really count as if you were hitting the ground. That way, if there's an edge in front of you, slide off it to get air mobility, but like, you can't, it's hard to vary much time because of the fact that it's so inaccurate every now and then. But the tips and tricks were just really that, since of the fact that I have to also explain how to use Soldier a bit. And also when using Soldier, you wanna always if you wanna have a secondary, you're gonna have to use that secondary more than half of the time against pyros, mostly because of the fact that pyros can reflect your rockets, and this goes for like new people. Rockets can be deflected and air blasted back at you or away from a pyro. And